Okay, so thanks to those of you for joining our webinar here. This is the last one in our Unlock Your World series today, which is Vision Assistance in Education. And I think most of you might have been in our previous sessions already, but just for anybody that wasn't, I'm Rebecca. I'm based in Sydney at Quantum here. And today we've got Trevor Boyd in our Melbourne office and Rob Drummond based in Sydney, who's are going to be presenting this session. So I will mute most of you during most of the webinar just to avoid background noise while we're recording, but we will have the opportunity for questions at the end. We will take questions by the chat box, which is alternate to get there, or click on the chat box icon. And we are recording this webinar and we'll send you around the link and any information afterwards. And yeah, if you've got any technical issues, please use the chat box too. So I'm just going to mute most people here. So without further ado, I will hand over to Rob, who's our senior low vision consultant, and we'll go through some of the technology that we've got that can assist in the education space.
Joining us this afternoon. As you'll probably realise, we're due to be over there in person, and not only meet you, talk to you face to face, but also have pretty much our full product range over there in Perth with us, so that you can come and have a bit of playtime, which is a very important way of understanding how these products work, and particularly for how the products work in this instance in the education setting. We will, once all this is over, be back, and we will actually do that big event as we had originally planned, and we'll be in touch with you when that occurs. In the meantime though, we've been pretty good over the years of doing over the web assessments and things like this, and assisting the various vision teachers around the country in doing a remote session, even to the point where we've sent equipment onto a teacher. Teachers got it in front of the student. We set up a similar video conference to what we're doing today, and we can talk people through how to use it, etc. So if you'd like either an information session, just like today, but a little bit more in depth or pertinent to your own situation, or whether you'd like an assessment done remotely, just let us know and we can do that for you. So what we're going to do today is take you through a few of the products. I've got Trevor Boyd, many of you know. Trevor knows pretty much everything about Braille that there needs to know. He always gets a little smirk at that point and then a bit of a pickle afterwards. But Trevor's got a huge amount of experience in the field of Braille in education, and if you've got questions, he's your man. As far as the low vision stuff's concerned, I'll start off with a few of the basic things. Probably not going into a huge amount of depth with each product, but just enough to give you, a good understanding of what the product does and how that might be used in the education setting. There is a chat box there, as I think Beck mentioned, and if you've got any questions along the way, perhaps Beck could monitor that and we can answer questions as we go. So in general, why is technology important in education for our kids? And it all comes down to what happens after school, basically. How efficient a student can become in using various pieces of technology, so that when they do leave school and end up working, for the bank, for the local florist, they go off to TAFE, they go off to university or whatever, they really need to, in their K-12 years, be exposed to enough and be used to a good variety of equipment. not only equipment, but also it could be free apps that might be on a phone, could be software that's put onto their computers. The more things they know about, the better equipped they will be to do a good job. And the old adage we like to use here at Quantum is that you don't get a builder to build your house if all he turns up with is a hammer and a saw. There's a lot more that he needs to do the job properly, and pretty much that's the same, throughout the education system for anyone that is vision impaired. So I guess I might start off with something that is just over my shoulder here. And this is something that might be used, and we supply quite a few of these into the sort of catered to 3, maybe year 4 sort of areas in schools around New South Wales here. I know we've done that in other states as well. And what it is, it's a device called the Digimax. It's a desktop electronic magnifier, CCTV if you will. And it's got a camera that's flexible. When I say it's flexible, it can point down at the page. So currently it's looking at this magazine, and I might like to move the magazine around. I can, with the little control panel, change the magnification, and I can also change the various reading modes. So, high contrast, black and white, white on black, yellows, blues, etc. The other thing I can do with this is tilt it towards things that it might be around the room. So there's a map of Australia on the room over there, and it's now pointing to the northeast part of South Australia. And that's where I was supposed to be going on my holidays in July, but I won't be doing that now. What it's done though is remembered the settings that I had when I last used this. It didn't remember where to point it. I've had to do that. But it will remember those settings again when I come back down to the reading material. So there it is, that level of magnification and yellow and black. So the other thing that this is good for, particularly in those younger years, you might have objects that you might want to magnify and see what's on them. So here I've got a little highlighter, and I want to see what's written on it. So I can really zoom in on some of the finest detail on that, and it's really quite plain and simple to use. So a lot of kids really enjoy these, and I always suggest that at that age group, obviously there's a lot of kids in the classroom are really curious, and the best way to kill that curiosity is to actually run a little project in the class, get the kids to, everyone in the class, 4 or 5 at a time, bring something in, put it underneath and tell the class about it. And after a day or two, nobody really cares that that device is sitting up on some other kid's desk. So that's something that's used, as I say, quite frequently in earlier education. Doesn't weigh that much. It's got a handle there, you can pick it up and move it around off the bench if you did need to, but basically it's something that stays on the bench. One thing this one is particularly good at being able to do, it's a bit hard because I'm a little bit restricted for space here, but you can actually slide the camera out all the way to one side. Can be left or right side. And if I put something down on the floor, you can actually see what's written down on the floor. And the good thing about this is plenty of space there to put larger formatted documents or maps and things like that. And you can also do the same thing if you're left-handed. So it is truly a left or right-handed device. And when you do flick it around, there's a button there, which means that you can turn it to left or right. So it's the Digimax, and as I say, quite a useful device in those early years. As kids progress through school, they obviously need to become a little bit more mobile. So that's when we start looking at some of the other devices. And there's a whole range of these smaller handheld ones, but something like this one we've got here. Just point the camera down so you can see a little bit better. So this one is a 6-inch device. It's got a little camera at the back, and it's just looking directly down at that magazine. This one has got a touch screen in terms of pinching and whatnot for zoom. Tap the screen, and we've got different controls on here as well. And then you just slide it across the page as you read. Now this has got a stand. You don't have to use it necessarily in the stand. You can use it in this fashion as well. But generally for low vision, you want a really stable image on the screen. You don't want it to be jumping around so much, and you don't want it to be zooming in and out and trying to refocus. And that's why using something like this on a stand makes a lot of sense. Something else you can do with this, it's probably not that easy straight away. It takes a bit of getting used to, but it can read what text is on the screen. So it's got the ability to take a picture of the page, do the optical character recognition, and then take that and turn it into speech. So, a small little device, that's quite handy. Just how handy that really is in an education setting where you probably want speed and accuracy. It's maybe a little questionable, but that's a possibility. So that's the Compact 6. The two versions of this, one that has a speech and then the one that doesn't. So that's that one. Were there any questions at this stage?
Not at the moment. Has anyone got anything? Got any?
That's all right. No problem. So next one is a 10-inch one, and this one's the Compact 10, and pretty much the same device as the Compact 6, but larger. This one also has a stand, and that's how you're going to read. You might note that the position of the stand on this one, or the actual angle of the stand, is a little bit more upright, and it's really quite a nice position for it to, for reading. The only reason that this one's a little bit flatter is so that the camera's got a better angle down to the page. If it was up the same angle, it would be seeing the bottom of the stand just along here. So with this one, we'll tap on the button and it'll come on. And so as you might expect with a bigger device, oops, you've got a much bigger field of view available to you. You've also got a separate camera on the side here, and the idea of this is that you have the ability now, if you wanted to take a picture of that whole page. It's a little bit smaller than A4, but here's an A4 sheet, and now you've got the ability to do the OCR on a full A4 sheet of paper. And in education, that's generally what's going to be required. But the other thing that's nice about this is you can also zoom in and use it as a magnifier for filling in little worksheets and things like that. So really handy little device, this one. It's got multiple uses, and again, like the Compact 6, it's available either as just the magnifier only, or you do have the ability of doing the OCR with it also. So the magnifier still has this camera off to the side so that you can do those handwriting exercises and whatnot as well. These three devices, and indeed many others that we've got, are actually all standalone devices, if you like. They don't need the internet. They're not computers. They just do what they do. The exception, I guess, being with the Compact 6 and the Compact 10, is that you can actually save images and you can actually cast them to other devices as well. But they are basically standalone devices. But what you might find is that as you progress through school, you might want to do other things with your, what these devices are capturing. In other words, you've got the picture. So what do you do with that? Well, there is the ability to capture it when you've got basically a computer. This is what it looks like in one piece, and simply please remind me if I forget. I'll show you how it packs down, and it does pack down quite small. So this is a device called the MagniLink tab, and the MagniLink is a name that Low Vision International use, and they use it for all of their visual devices. And they're made in Sweden. They're a very high quality device. So this one particularly is using a Surface Pro in a stand. So this is pretty much a standard Surface Pro. Hasn't got anything else on it other than an app. And it's got the app, so it can do what it does. We've got a camera here, which is sort of similar to the camera on the Digimax from before, in that you can tilt it up and point it around the room so you can see things around the room. But you can also use it to look at things down here. I'll just turn the app on. The application has got a couple of possibilities. You can use this camera. There's my fingers underneath this camera. But you can also use the camera that's in the Surface Pro. Now, this Surface Pro has been turned upside down so that the camera is not up the top that you'd normally expect it. It's actually down underneath here. And just a tap on that little button there. It switches the camera, and there's the image. Now, one thing it does do, as much as possible, is straightens the image. So most of these devices, because the camera is such a quite an acute angle, you end up with a keyhole effect. And what they've done is use some nice bit of software just to keep that nice and straight on the screen. Now, with these, you can pinch if you like. You can. There's also gestures for changing various colours on the screen. You can also get it to take a picture and save that picture, and you're going to save that in the Windows environment so that you can email it and do whatever you like with it. You've also got the ability to take video with this camera, with the auxiliary camera out on the side. So if we want to switch cameras, running out of desk space here a little bit, but to give you an idea, if I wanted to read that section of the page, I'll just hold it in position, have my finger on the screen for a moment.
What does this mean in practice?
And now it's reading
Students
it out.
with disability should be able to enroll in a course of an education provider on the same basis as
I can
students
still
without disability.
magnify it.
The education provider must take reasonable steps that will make enrollment acceptable.
That's reading a little bit quickly. You can slow it down, speed it up, etc. But what it's doing is it gives me the option in the settings to actually show the picture of the page, either as it is now, the actual picture, or you can also have it reformatted so that it looks better and cleaner on the screen, like it is in this yellow bar at the bottom here. You don't have to have that yellow bar. You can do the same thing if you want to up on the main document and listen and watch at the same time. So that's a MagniLink tab. capable of a few other tricks as well, but that's its main job. And as I say, you've got the Surface Pro sitting underneath here. So if you want to get back to what you might have there on your desktop, and perhaps you've got a Explorer or something there. So there's your standard Windows Explorer, and you just go into your documents, find what you want, etc. The other thing you can do with this, we've got this loaded up with JAWS, Zoomtext, Fusion, doesn't matter. You can just use the Surface Pro for what it is, and when it comes time to do your magnification, turn a piece of paper into speech, whatever, you can do that through the
Start reading.
MagnaLink software. Okay, so that's something that's a little bit more holistic. I have remembered. I'll show you how it packs down. So there's just one USB port here, and there is only one on a Surface Pro. We disconnect the camera. We can turn that off if we wish, but all we have to do, because we're just moving to the classroom next door, is pack it down like that, pick it up, and away we go. Now, I wouldn't like to try it, but that Surface Pro is really well encased in there, and this is a metal case. You could probably drop it, not suggested, but it is really well protected in there. And you won't be able to see it here, but the screen is actually off the surface, off the table as well, so there's no risk of the screen being cracked, even if it was dropped. All right, so that's a all-in-one sort of solution, if you like. But if someone's already got a laptop, and they may have a laptop, maybe because they've got a need to have a larger screen. So the screen on the Surface Pro is about 12-inch. But if you do need a larger screen, and like my laptop here, let's time that on me, so excuse me a sec. What I can do is utilise something that's quite similar. We've got two of these, one from LVI, this one's called the MagnaLink Student, and we've got another one from BVS in America called the Transformer. Both of them are quite similar products, different designs, and offering, I guess, slightly different outcomes in terms of what they can do when you really get down to the deeper detail, I guess. Set this up and hopefully you can see what's happening on my screen at the same time. So generally with this, and this is just connected by a simple USB cable. Don't need to see me, you can see the device a bit better. There we go. And we've got the camera sitting on the side, much the same as we do with the other devices we've talked about. I start a little application on my desktop. And I can only find a really nice little picture of some sort. And there we have it. So this, the camera in these LVI devices, I'm going to say, is really good. It's really small, compact, and very, very high quality. There are a couple of different versions of these. We only bring in the highest quality one. These devices are expensive. But at the price level that they're at, these days with the current exchange rate, salaries around 9,000, the difference to the lower quality camera in price isn't that huge, and the extra quality is certainly well worth it. But anyway, now that we've got our Windows device, and even if you've got a MacBook, they work exactly the same on a MacBook. They've got their own bit of software just for Macs. And you can now just use them as a magnifier. You can use keystrokes if you wish. You can use different contacts. Here I've just hit a button. Now it's done the OCR on what it can see on the screen.
Larger body size. Elephants have multiple glands that form temporarily to help maintain pregnancy.
Now the other thing that you can do with this is you can save the video, you can save the audio, you can save pictures. And all that means is that you've got the flexibility, particularly if you're doing, say, a project or something like that, of gathering information from various sources. You can actually collate that all into one folder and use that information later on. With some versions of the software here, you can actually open those documents and use them within the software at a later stage. It's not a standard feature of the software, but that is a possibility. Mm-hmm. And the other thing this will do is OCR anything. So if the print was big enough, and certainly won't do the map on the wall over there, but if there was a chart over there or something like that, it would certainly do the OCR. It will OCR also a PowerPoint presentation that's put up on the slide. It'll pretty much, a chart on the wall, anything like that, it'll do the OCR. So slight differences with the MagnaLink tab. MagnaLink tab is its whole thing, but here if you've already got a laptop, or if you've got the need for a larger screen, this is probably the way to do it. The other thing that I haven't mentioned, I've mentioned you can work it on a Windows or a Mac. You can also plug it straight into any external monitor like a TV. So you can use it as a regular CCTV then, because what you've got is the buttons here down on the stand for it, and you can just use those buttons to use it like a magnifier. Mm-hmm. All right, do we have any questions?
We've not had anyone write any yet. Has anyone got any questions they'd like to put in the chat box for us? See.
Very good.
I've got a question, Rob. Does the MagnaLink do other languages, the OCR?
Ah, yes. Interestingly, yes, it does. You can buy as many languages as you like. It's just a matter of getting a bit of software, and it's whatever language you like, and it's automatic language detection as well. And that does include Arabic. So it's the only bit of OCR software or technology that I know, hardware, software, that actually does that in our space. Haven't proved it yet, but we could organise a trial version if somebody needed to do so.
Yep.
Good question.
Yeah, kept the showroom at the.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. Question.
Yeah, there was somebody trying to ask a question. I don't know whether I can unmute people if you. It's just a reminder, it's Alt-H to get into the chat box if you're having any difficulty. No.
Okay.
Okay.
Hand over to Trevor. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Rob.
Hey all, it's Trevor. I just thought I'd give a brief overview of some software, then some JAWS, and then a little bit of information on tactile diagrams and what's going on currently. Apologise for the quality of this image on the screen. It's about the best I can do in my shed, thanks to NBN when data dropped out at the office. However, this is just a brief thing about Zoomtext. there's three main packages out there in schools at the moment, and they'd be JAWS, Zoomtext and Fusion. Most popular one has been, this is Fusion, but I'll just show as it works with so when you install it, it'll simply run, it'll come up with a little box just like this, and it will default to a ×2 magnification. This is really popular because an awful great number of students use it. It's very easy to use. You can install it on a Windows PC, and it doesn't, importantly, it doesn't change the way you use the computer. So if I was used to just going to the bottom left and hitting the Windows key and having all this sort of thing come up using Word, Zoomtext simply overlays over the top. So it doesn't affect the operation at all. So if I have a good spatial memory and I know where the buttons are, especially if I can actually rearrange the icons on the screen so I know where they are, maybe give them a highlighting color, maybe group them so all my apps are in one section and maybe my files are in another. It can be a very, very easy thing to use. It's probably overall, I reckon, one of the most underutilized pieces of software I've ever come across. And the main reason for that is that it has a whole heap of features that rarely people use. A simple one. And again, I can do pointer enhancements. And I can have a giant green mouse.
Sorry, Trevor. Could you perhaps tilt the screen a little towards you?
Yeah. It just
a little bit better.
Yeah. One of the things with this is that, and it's designed around, interestingly enough, experimenting and trying dozens of different things and working at what may be useful. If you change the color to something bizarre or it all goes wrong or something, you just restart Zoomtext and it'll be fine again. It'll just come up in its default. But if you do happen to come up with a set of, workable colors that really do help and improve things, then you simply save it as default. And from then on, it will come up in that settings. It has some really useful features. A lot of students find the I-beam when you're using Word and the mouse changes from the mouse arrow to an I-beam. It's a very fine symbol, and so a lot of there's adjustments you can make to add wedges or circle it or things like that. There's things you can do with the mouse so that as you move it around, it might, as you move it, it might have crosshairs so it's easier to find. There's actually a red box. It paints around the focus in this case because we were just looking at the pointer settings, then it draws a red box around the pointer settings. But it also could draw a focus red box around anything you were doing in Word or Excel. It's really quite a sophisticated thing. For example, you can fix it if you're in a workplace and you needed to know I was at one workplace where if there was a phone call for somebody, it would come up on the screen in the top, I think it was the top right, and it would flash. And that meant if you're in a call center, then that call was available and somebody needed to answer it. Zoomtext has the ability to say this area of the screen, if there's a change in this area, it'll bring it up, it'll highlight it on the screen so you know something's happening. If you're really bored at work, you could have it so that it told you the time. So there's lots of different things you can do. You can alter colors and do many of the things that Rob was doing on some large print magnification. The other one that I think is very common in schools is JAWS. JAWS does not do any screen magnification or enhancements. It's purely a screen reading program. This is a whole other, a change in the way you use a computer. So from the JAWS, the perspective of JAWS is that your mouse is no longer a usable tool. So you have keyboard commands to control a PC. The difference here is that it's a combination of things, like you can very effectively use it just by using your keyboard commands. And they might be Windows key and something, they might be Alt Tab or Windows Tab, or the whole range. I think I printed them out one day from Microsoft, and I think I was up to 12 pages of keyboard commands. Not suggesting every student learns that, but I think you can get away with a good group of keyboard commands to make students very effective at using a Windows PC. There's often a little bit of a difficulty here because some students, you can imagine if a student was using, or a person was using Zoomtext, and their difficulty in seeing the screen increases, and so they're upping the magnification level. If you had it on ×5, one of the issues there is that you're only reading a 25th of the screen at a time. So if you had to read a book or something, or a lot of information on a website, if you had a complex piece of reading, PDF or something you had to do, that could take some time. So Zoomtext has the ability to switch on the reader and read that to you. And JAWS obviously has the ability to read most text on the screen. A cool thing about JAWS is that it has, as part of it, an OCR component. So that's optical character recognition. What that means, if it has like for example, in the workplace or at school, you get an inaccessible PDF. JAWS is able to grab hold of that document, do much the same as a text-to-speech system did with the when Rob showed you those magnifiers. It takes the image of the print, it changes it and recognises each character, and then forms a document and reads it out to you. And JAWS has the ability to do that. One of the difficulties can be when you move from sort of the Zoomtext methods of doing things to a JAWS method of doing things. For a while, it was really a case of you had to switch one off and switch one on. We've now got a lot more choices in that Zoomtext and JAWS are compatible. And there's another one called Fusion, which is exactly that. It's JAWS and Zoomtext fused together, if you can manage that. And so what that happens is that a person can start to utilize all of the advantages of the keyboard commands and the speed at which that happens with JAWS, but still have that Zoomtext component. So that's a really, it's a really important aspect. And a couple of those pointers is that we do have, like if you simply download it, all of those three, JAWS, Zoomtext, Fusion, will run in a 40-minute mode. So you download it, you install it, it runs for 40 minutes and will switch off. You need to reboot the PC. If it were, say, you were trying to evaluate this or look at how it works, we do have the ability to give you a 45-day license, and that will run any of those for 45 days. There's another thing too, given our current situation with virus and the difficulties in schools closing, Freedom Scientific have offered a 90-day license. So there's cases where the school's computers, if they're networked, may not actually work outside the school. And so some students who may be looking at Zoomtext or JAWS may be having a difficulty here. And so what Freedom have done is they've said, if you want to use your home computer and you wouldn't otherwise have access to these three, you need to contact us and we can go back to Freedom and basically allocate a 90-day license to at least get you over and get you up and running with any of these three programs. Just a couple of things that need to be aware of with these. One is there's a thing called, we're all familiar, I think, with remote access at PCs, whereby you can connect to other PCs, you know, that are a distance. I use it at work. When I log on in the office, I actually connect to the PC in Sydney. JAWS had a feature called, I can't think of it now,
Just remote access
JAWS,
feature, I think.
remote JAWS, and what it does, it allows two JAWS to connect, and what that does is that so somebody, if you're training somebody, for example, a remote person can run through the features of JAWS and demonstrate to a person, train a person, or fault find how to actually go about that. And
you mean JAWS Tandem?
JAWS Tandem. There's also another one which is quite useful. And for example, this Zoom meeting aspect, I do a lot of training now with Zoom, where you can actually take over the remote PC or share screens like we're doing. And that's a really useful training aspect. And I do a lot of training now on these using those sorts of tools. We used to have a lot of issues with school firewalls and dramas like that. But most of these applications are very usable across school sites. So our ability, Quantum's ability with a range of people to do the training and support has increased quite a lot. And I think that's important because often people are very concerned about how that training could happen or how, you know, we go about that. But there are lots of options now with that. I've got a question. The 90-day sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Is the 90-day license only for students, or can it be used for employees? It can also be used for employees. So yeah, do please contact us if you need one. So.
Yep. So not necessarily just for students. If that's the case where you're in the workplace and you may be at home needing to log in or whatever, then please contact us and we'll see what we can do with that. The other thing that's happened, I think, with this is, I'll just swap cameras. So here's a couple of our Focus Braille displays. This is a Focus 14, what they're calling the Focus 14 5th generation, and it's a 14 cell and a 40 cell. These have been around a little while and they're very popular. They, or both of these have Bluetooth, so they'll Bluetooth to an iPhone or a iPad, and that's a very useful tool. This one people may not have come across. This is called an Braille. Again, it's being it's from the Elita group, and basically inside here is a laptop. So comes in two, basic the top level Intel processor, i5. I think it's 8 gig. Has Wi-Fi, all of the normal features you'd expect. Has HDMI out and a couple of Bluetooth connections. The main thing I really like about this in the school setting is that if you had to log on to the network or you have to have Pro software installed, this is a standard Windows 10 package. So you can just connect into it, you plug your screen into the HDMI out, Bluetooth keyboard and mouse, and basically if you hid this away, the tech wouldn't know that the device was this Braille. I would think it would be a standard PC. This has been designed so that we can put basically this 40 cell Braille display and connect it into the device, and that simply allows it becomes now a Braille laptop. So I've got my 40 cell Braille display here. I've got my keyboard, Braille keyboard here. I've got navigation keys along the bottom here so I can navigate. I've got these rocker keys here control what I'm viewing on my Braille display. So I could move, maybe I could have one set to moving simply up and down lines or moving along a line, a print line of text. I could have the other one allocated, say, for example, moving up and down paragraphs. There's a small, which they're very hard to see in this mode, but there's a whole array of dots. And there's 40 cells and there's 40 dots above them. And what that means, if I was reading, somebody was reading along here, they discover a typo or something they'd need to change here. If you move your finger directly up and press that button, it will move the cursor directly to that point. I've simply I've installed various software packages onto this, and it just acts like a standard PC. It does the Windows updates, so it's current, and it's just basically designed to utilize JAWS. One thing with the JAWS is, at the moment, we've had lots of changes that have come out of Microsoft, and so I do suggest that you keep your Windows 10 updates up to scratch, and also the correct version of JAWS. There's also been several of the free updates coming out of JAWS, or for all three packages, Fusion, Zoomtext and JAWS. And it is quite, at this stage, with so many changes happening with Microsoft, it's good value to keep up to date with those free updates for JAWS and the other packages as well.
Yeah, we've had a question. Trevor.
What's that one?
Someone's tried to use the tandem function in Zoom using JAWS, but wasn't accessible. Was that in terms of screen sharing, or actually I might just mute the person.
I'd like to know.
Yeah.
Really
look into that. I know there are scripts for Zoom in JAWS. So sorry, I'll just
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah.
So thanks for all this. This is good information, but I was using Zoom and needed someone to access my computer remotely through the Zoom function, but it didn't actually work. I couldn't access the numbers and so on using JAWS to give to the other person to then take over my computer. You were saying earlier that this function is available in Zoom and you use it for your trainings.
Yeah. So somebody was trying to take over your PC, was that the...
Yeah, I needed them to take over my PC.
Yep.
And in the end, I had to download, or get them to download TeamViewer because the Zoom function didn't work.
Yeah, I'm not sure. So were you using JAWS?
Yeah. So I was trying to post an article on LinkedIn.
Okay. So you could use...
I couldn't do that.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, you could use Tandem. If the other person had JAWS, you could...
Yeah. No, the other person didn't have JAWS, so I tried to use that remote access feature in Zoom.
So they were just trying to access your PC to take it over to run, to do something. Yeah, that's a JAWS, that's a Zoom issue. So normally what I do is, depends on their skill. I have the other person to share their screen, so I'm looking at their screen. And then I make a request to take over their keyboard and mouse.
Yeah, and you can do it that way.
And so that's the way I've done it.
But when you make that request, that I found wasn't, that request coming through to my computer wasn't accessible.
Okay.
Okay, we'll have to investigate
look,
that.
I'm happy to look at that. Normally it's just it depends how you do it. You can also, from your end, basically it's you forget how that's put, but you request that to be done, and you know the remote person has access.
I had to get them, as I said, to use TeamViewer.
Something separate. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll
I'll
look
have a look
into
at
that and see what. Okay.
Normally it should be just the request machine pops up and you just click an OK button. But yeah, I'm happy to have a look at that.
Yeah.
I have often done this with Danny, our software support person who uses JAWS. So if you have issues with this, please contact us straight away and we can have a look at them.
Yeah. I don't know if you have any comment there, Danny. Do you? Have you had that issue?
It is a feature I've only ever used once before. Beck, you and I actually did it as part of a webinar, probably about 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Can I ask who was it? Who asked the question?
Zell.
Okay. What I'd suggest, give me my name's Danny. I'm tech support for Quantum. What I'd suggest is give me a ring tomorrow if you can. 1300 791 777.
Yep.
Give me a ring sometime tomorrow and I'll have a chat with you in a little bit more detail on this one and find out exactly what you were trying to do, what was happening at the time, what did work, what didn't work, and I'm quite happy to have a look at it from this end as well.
Cheers, thanks. Can you put that number in chat, please?
Yeah, sure.
Yep, we can do that.
Thanks.
Okay, sorry, Trevor.
No worries.
Yeah.
It's good. It's one thing we do want to tell people is that, you know, we do have a lot of support services here, and just to give us a yell, if you're having issues with anything, installations, updates, whether or not something's valid, if anybody loses keys, all those sorts of things, this is more than happy to help with that. One thing people might be familiar with, because we've had a thing called the PF and PF paper, and that is tactile diagrams. And these basically are diagrams which are printed on PF paper, ZY paper, and don't really, they lose their appeal really over the camera, but they produce, you can photocopy onto these and basically instantly produce a tactile diagram. These have been used in schools for years and years, and they're very popular, very good. Basically, you can use a basic, lasers work better. You can do it with an inkjet, but lasers are a little bit better. And you can produce a very crisp Braille label document very easily. Basically, you with a laser, you just print over this paper, you put it through the PF, and out comes a tactile diagram. You can put it through a number of times to alter. You can often draw on these with textures, and you can alter these and put them through another and develop a sort of build on a diagram so they come up. You can use paint in the Braille font, for example, to Braille label. And so it's a very useful way of just producing tactile diagrams on the spot for a student. Something, recent invention is we have a thing called a Tac Plus, and it looks like basically a desktop inkjet printer. And what it does is it uses similar special paper, but it'll produce a tactile diagram just in one pass through this printer. It takes about roughly a minute a page. Is that about right, Beck? I haven't.
I think it, yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
And I think Rob's, if anyone can see it, Rob's actually got it on his camera. So
excellent stuff. So that's it. Basically, it plugs in. It looks like a standard sort of inkjet printer, laser printer to the system. You print to it, and it can then produce basically a tactile diagram.
Yeah. So I literally connected it to Word and put in an image, and off you go. So you do need to make, if you're doing Braille font, you do need to make it a certain size. But yeah, it was really quick.
Yeah. I think it's about 16 or 18 point. A lot of schools simply use paint or something similar. They open a text box and they type the label in print so they can check its spelling. And if you're quite happy with grade 1, you simply substitute the Braille font. And then you can print that out to either PF style or the Tac Plus and have a Braille labeled tactile diagram.
Yeah.
The last one I'll mention is a thing that has been around quite a while but has found new life in a lot of schools, and that is the open book program combined with a Pearl camera. Basically, this unfolds and the camera sits just simply on the table, you plug it in, and anything you put underneath that camera on the desk is simply scanned in and read. So I'll see how I go if I can. So here's Open Book here. Just to check, am I sharing the screen?
Yes, thanks, Trevor.
Cool. I'll put something just simply underneath the Pearl camera, and I press the space bar. Takes a photo. It'll have a think about it. And I'm hoping really soon. There you go. If I did nothing else, it would simply read out that page. So it's quite a usable thing by students as well.
Yep.
If I had a Braille display plugged in, I could then access this material in Braille immediately as well. It's also quite useful, and there's just one little trick. If I go split view, and this is more for what happens in almost every school now in Victoria, where we have a Braille student. We have a Braille embosser, Duxbury, and one of these set up. And what this does is it allows the person to basically scan in a page or a PDF very quickly and make it available to the student either as an MP3 or Braille, or you can grab the text and email it to the student if they have a smart device. But one of the things with this is that if, like I've drawn some notes and things in amongst this, and if I'm wondering what that is up here in the top half of the screen, whether that's, you know, text or it hasn't recognized or just what, it links the two images. So it links the image below with the text above, so I can very quickly work out what's happening. So the Pearl camera and Open Book software is very useful for making accessible text very quickly for students. It's usable by students themselves if they have access to a Windows PC. And it's, as I said, it's used a lot by the support staff in schools. That's about up for time. Are there any questions so far?
I'll just go back to the chat and see if I can see. Oh, somebody was asking more details about the remote access in Fusion. Can you please explain how the Fusion remote access works?
Yeah. Is it better we do that at a later date? If you can just leave contact information, we can give you a call.
Yeah, yeah, we can do that. That's okay.
Danny can get in touch.
We can explain that. So, I mean, the idea is you can use your software over Citrix or remote server desktop. So.
Yeah, that's quite a complex topic and probably way too complex for here.
Yeah. Any other questions? Oh, okay. So they're going to call us support. So thanks. Okay, thanks. Yep. Yep. Not a problem. So. Okay. Great. Well, if there's no other questions, thank you very much, Trevor, and everybody, and Rob, and thanks to everybody for joining. So we'll might wrap that up. I don't know if Rob wanted to say any last.
Always like the last word, I guess.
I'll put up our contact details as well. So.
Yeah, thanks for joining us this afternoon. Beck's just about to put up our contact details if you wanted to take a quick note of those. As mentioned before, if you want to have a one-on-one session, a group session, if you want us to help with a remote assessment or something like that, just get in touch. There's always ways of doing these things, and days like we're in at the moment, no one knows how long this thing's going to go on for, so we don't want to hold up our kids, and if there's a way of progressing things, then let's try and make it happen. Anyway, thanks for participating, and we'll see you around sometime.
Yep.
Thank you.
So, excellent. Thanks, Rob. Okay. So it's 1300 883 853 or info@quantumrlv.com.au. So talk to people later. So
Thanks, Beck.
thanks.
You all.
There we go.